Well, I really applaud the federal government for taking a more active leadership role, and they really should at their level, because I think both from a private sector perspective and from a public sector perspective, we look to them to develop the frameworks and to pull groups together to have those conversations, because sometimes you just don't have that networking at the state level and at the local government level. So personally, I've been involved with an organization called MSISAC, the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. And that organization was started, I want to say at least 10 years ago, by a fellow named William Pellegrin out of New York. He was the CISO for the state of New York. And he thought, we really need to pull together some people in state government and start talking, because we all have the same issues. We're all dealing with the same bad guys, and we've all got the same issues internally. And so he pulled together a group, and ultimately he was working with the federal government, and they turned it into an ISAC. There are a number of different ISAC. There's like an energy ISAC and a finance ISAC. They decided they really needed to, get very specific groups together, and so different segments were coming together, as I said, like energy and finance. And so we pulled this state group together, which is state and local government, and I've been involved in that since the get-go. I was on their executive committee. I'm also right now involved with something called the State, Local, Tribal, Territorial Government Coordinating Council, SLTTGCC, and that again is funded by the U.S. government, and it involves a number of representatives from different states, both at the state level and the local government level. And part of our role is to determine what kind of information, what kind of best practices can we share within our own state and our own local government. We're also working really closely with the private sector. We're involved in a number of different organizations like ISACA and ISSA, et cetera. We have a number of conferences that we go to that I think give people an opportunity to find out what other people are doing, learn about best practices, interface with vendors, and have an opportunity to network, because everybody is so busy that you can't, it's hard to even just to get out for lunch or something, but when you can meet at a conference or a seminar or a workshop, it gives you an opportunity to have that individual interface as well as learn from others, because again, whether you're in the private sector or in the public sector, we're all dealing with the same issues. And rather than working with that alone, you can really find out a lot of good information sharing that goes on. So I think up and down the chain, whether you're at the federal level, state level, the private sector level, we have got to share. And I know that that's been an issue, particularly with the private sector sharing with the public sector at the federal government, because you think, do I really want to tell them where I have issues? and I get that. And you also, a lot of them are worried about having the feds weigh in when something goes wrong. They also don't want to share. Often the private sector is very competitive, and they don't necessarily want to share with others. But I think folks are getting over that hurdle, and they're understanding that, I can learn something even from a competitor. And if we're talking about things like incidents, we all need to do a better job. And do I really, just because I'm doing something well, do I really not want to share that? That I think people are realizing that's not morally right. And so I think people are beginning to overcome that. I think the federal government is beginning to understand the concerns of the private sector. And I think that they are going to help to, be that focal point to bring people together and to share. And I think they have a huge role. And I'm delighted to see that President Obama and the federal government is stepping up. I think they have a huge role to play.